morning, guys. That's right. Devon Archer sat on the board of Ukrainian natural gas company Burisma Holdings with Hunter Biden back in 2014. Now, yesterday, he didn't answer questions upon arrival on Capitol Hill, but lawmakers on the House Oversight Committee say Archer revealed that Hunter put his father, then Vice President Joe Biden, on speakerphone at least 20 times while meeting with foreign business partners. Archer claims Biden was put on the phone to sell, quote, the brand. Now, in a statement, House Oversight Committee Chairman James Comer said Devon Archer's testimony confirms that Joe Biden lied to the American people when he said he had no knowledge about his son's business dealings and was not involved. Joe Biden was the brand that his son sold around the world to enrich the Biden family. But the White House is rejecting Comer's conclusions. Now, they tell me, quote, it appears that the House Republicans' own much-hyped witness today testified that he never heard President Biden discussing business with his son or his son's associates or doing anything wrong. House Democrats echoing the White House, arguing Hunter was only selling the illusion of access by putting his father on speakerphone. Listen.
Approximately 20 times over the course of 10-year relationship, Hunter may have put his father on the phone with any number of different people, and they never once spoke about any business dealings. As he described it, it was all casual conversation, niceties, the weather.
But Republicans strongly disagree.
The term he uses that people would probably not be inclined to legally lean on Burisma because of the Biden brand, which again he's reiterated was Joe Biden.
Archer talked about the big guy and how Hunter Biden always said we need to talk to my guy. We need to see when my guy's going to be here and those types of things.
Archer's attorneys defending his testimony, saying, quote, all Devon Archer did was exactly what we said he would, show up and answer the questions put to him honestly and completely. Mr. Archer shared the truth with the committee, and we will leave to them to decide what to do with it.
That you would
2,000 years later.
You want him to do you so much you could do anything.
You want him to do so much Ukrainian energy you could do anything? That is Democrats trying to dig themselves out of the hole that they are now in. It is glorious. Do you feel the victory at our fingertips? I certainly do. Ladies and gentlemen, today is August 1st, 2023. What a great way to start off the month. Devon Archer, Hunter Biden's business partner, turns on the Biden crime family and gives up Joe Biden to Congress. More of his former business partners say they will come forward now and testify against the Bidens, and Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene joins the show. My name is Benny Johnson, and this is The Benny Show. Ladies and gentlemen, you're missing out if you're not in the Benny Brigade. Starting today at the Benny Brigade, we are going to open up one of our first special access points for members to be part of this show. Live, part of this show. Marjorie Taylor Greene is going to come on the show. Marjorie Taylor Greene is the person who's going to impeach Joe Biden. Do you want to ask her a question? Do you want that question up on screen? I will personally ask it for you. The way to do that is to join the Benny Brigade. If you join the Benny Brigade for $5 a month, you can ask questions of our guests live, your name, the brigade, the question up on screen. It'll be the first question for our guests. We are opening up a portal today that will have all of our guests listed, and you'll be able to send in questions, and we will ask them. Along with a lot of other awesome little perks for all of our members, please consider joining the Benny Brigade today. The way to do it is to just go to bennyjohnson.com/brigade. And you support us, the fastest growing independent creator in the movement. Baby, let's go. And we want to stay independent so we can have shows like this. We're going to have a wild one today. Remember, the Seinfeld rule. The Seinfeld rule. Are you a fan of Seinfeld? I am a fan of Seinfeld. I think it's maybe the last funny show ever to be broadcast. I'm blessed that I was able to live in a time when you could still have fun and laugh at jokes. And there was an incredible moment where George Costanza, I think I'm going to call it the Costanza rule, okay? The Costanza rule, the iron law of George Costanza. It's not a lie if you believe it.
Just remember, it's not a lie if you believe it.
Okay, so that has been the prevailing rule in all of politics. Now, I'm going to wrap this all up in a nice little bow here, but I'm going to show you how this works, okay? Ladies and gentlemen, if you are a fan of the 90s, which is when Seinfeld was broadcast, you would understand that the Costanza rule applied to the president of the 90s. Watch how perfectly this works.
I want you to listen to me. I'm going to say this again. I did not have sexual relations with that woman.
Just remember, it's not a lie if you believe it.
Ooh, it's not a lie if you believe it. Bill Clinton. Does it apply only to Democrats? No, certainly not. Even Republicans get this treatment as well. Uniparty Republicans, globalist Republicans, warmongering Republicans, neocon Republicans. Watch this.
I take the threat very seriously. I take the fact that he develops weapons of mass destruction very seriously.
Just remember, it's not a lie if you believe it.
What about individuals who stand to benefit from creating extreme fear and fear-mongering, potentially about our climate? Let's go check in with somebody who ran against George W. Bush in the 2004 election, a man named John Kerry. In the year 2009, John Kerry gave a speech saying there'd be no more ice in Antarctica in 5 years. It's not a lie if you believe it.
We have sea ice, which is melting at a rate that the Arctic Ocean now increasingly is exposed. In 5 years, scientists predict we will have the first ice-free Arctic.
Just remember, it's not a lie if you believe it.
It's so good. It's so good. And it works so perfectly here. We're going to bundle this all up into what we learned about Joe Biden yesterday. The final one. You got to see how great this works. Oh, murder-suicide specialist herself, Hill Dog. Hill Dog, tell us about your home server. Oh, we're going to raid Mar-a-Lago because Donald Trump kept a love letter from Kim Jong-un there. We're going to go and put Donald Trump in jail. Hillary Clinton deleted 33,000 emails under subpoena. Smashed with a hammer. Took her phones, smashed them with hammers. We know this. This is confirmed. Hillary Clinton asked about it and...
You know, I used a single account for convenience. Obviously, these years later, it doesn't look so convenient. But the facts are the same as they have been from the very beginning of these questions being raised. And most importantly, I never sent classified material on my email, and I...
Just remember, it's not a lie if you believe it.
What up, ladies and gentlemen? It's so good. We work so hard to make this an entertaining show and to make sure that you are informed. Also, shout out where you're watching from. I want everyone to know how big the Benny Brigade actually is. Ladies and gentlemen, shout out in the comment section where you are watching from. We're getting international viewership on the show, and we think that's really neat. We think it's very cool. A bunch of people from New Zealand and the UK. And we want to educate you on exactly how awake we are here in this country. That we are able to actually see, observe, and to break the matrix because they are trying so desperately to try and convince you that what happened yesterday in Congress didn't actually happen. Or better yet, that it's something that we've known all along, you see? Ooh, baby, wait till you see what the New York Times published this morning about Joe Biden. Oh my God. Panic in D.C. But more importantly, let's start with a clip from September of 2020, a month, about 90 days before the general election. 90 days before the general election, Joe Biden faced the most brutal questioning he has faced from any corporate media about his son's business ties. Now, remember, this is something that had been known for a very long time. This is something that had gone on in the Obama administration, that had gone on with Barack Obama's blessings. Oh, we'll get there. Believe that. We'll get there. It's gone on, of course. Barack Obama oversaw it. Barack Obama approved of it. And ladies and gentlemen, everybody knew that the Bidens were corrupt. They laughed it off because, well, you're allowed. When you're rich enough and when you're powerful enough, they let you do it. So they just let Joe Biden do it. Now, everybody knew about this. Mike Allen, a guy who fancies himself as a straight up and down news reporter, decided to sit down across from Joe Biden and push him. Now, this is the best clip. We have a couple of clips. This is the best clip of Joe Biden really getting a reporter to like drill down, to like turn the screw a little bit on him when it comes to his son's business dealings in Ukraine. Listen to Joe Biden's response here. Lie after lie after lie after lie after brazen, humiliating, dehumanizing, despicable lie straight to his face. Watch Joe Biden do this. Go.
To serve on the board of a Ukrainian energy company facing serious corruption charges, you were the vice president running point on Ukraine. The average Joe hears that and says, that sounds fishy. What's your understanding of what your son was doing for an extraordinary amount of money?
I don't know what he was doing. I know he was on the board. I found out he was on the board after he was on the board, and that was it. And there's nobody...
Well, you've had a lot of time. Isn't this something you want to get to the bottom of?
No, because I trust my son.
But that doesn't pass the smell test. Like when you're vice president, isn't there a higher standard? Don't you need to know what's happening with your family? Don't you need to put down some guardrails?
Unless there was something that was, there was something on its face that was wrong. There's nothing on its face that was wrong. So look, if you want to talk about problems, you know, let's talk about Trump's family. I mean, come on. This is...
So
these guys are amazing.
So you think that everything that happened was kosher?
You know there's not one single bit of evidence, not one little tiny bit, to suggest anything done was wrong.
One little tiny bit. It's not a lie if you believe it. Now, Joe Biden, in that interview, if you had a keen ear, said, hey, man, I just didn't know what was going on. Mike Allen's like, this looks wrong. The clip goes on, by the way. Go ahead over to our Twitter, and you can watch it yourself. The clip goes on for 127 seconds of that reporter actually turning the screw on Joe Biden and saying, this looks dirty, man. What's your response to it? Now, that was for a big show, Axios' HBO show. How about local news reporter? Man, this is the best one. This is one that I think is just the creme de la creme. The best clip of Biden denying this. And again, I'm going to show you something from the New York Times this morning that is going to blow your mind. But the best clip of Biden denying this happened at a local level. CBS Boston, if you're watching in Massachusetts, shout yourself out. We have our executive producer, the great ALX. Follow him on Twitter. In Massachusetts, actually, ALX, holding down that state. This happened CBS local Boston. Put Joe Biden in a corner inside of some little pub somewhere and said, yo, you got real problems with your kids and all their dirty dealings. Listen to Biden's response here. This, man, this is the penultimum. This is, this is why you watch, because we go into the archives and we get this stuff, the stuff that nobody else, everyone else forgot about, or they tried to delete from the internet. They tried to delete this one. We got it for you. Watch.
Accusation against you stems from your son, Hunter Biden, working on the board of an energy company in Ukraine while you were vice president. Do you agree that that could at least create the appearance of a conflict?
Look, what I agree is with that there's not a single solitary thing anyone said that was done wrong. I don't discuss business with my son. I didn't know that was the case when in fact I found out after the fact. And because I don't discuss things with my son or my family, because I don't want to have any knowledge of any, I don't want to be accused of, well, you talk with your son or you talk with your whomever. And so the fact is, though, everybody's looked at that. He did nothing wrong. Zero.
I don't discuss business with my son, but more importantly, what did he say up front? He didn't know that Hunter was serving on the board. He said he had no idea. I didn't know about Ukraine. What is Ukraine? What's Ukraine? Stew crane? Flu crane? What even is it? I don't even know, Jack. Get me a corn pop. Gotta get him off the diving board. There's a tactic that's used here, and it's twofold. First tactic. Make sure that when you are speaking about this issue, that you say you had no idea what was going on and you had no knowledge of it, okay? We're going to blow that lie out of the water. And we're going to blow the second lie out of the water. The second lie is, look at Donald Trump! Whoa! Why are you asking me questions, Jack? Look at Donald Trump! The perfect example of this, and it'd be a shame if this clip went viral. In fact, it did. This has got like 40,000 retweets. Got millions of views on my Twitter yesterday. It'd be a shame if this clip went viral of Joe Biden brazenly, knowingly, wantingly, blatantly, criminally looking straight down the barrel of the Fox News and CNN cameras and every other reporter in the world at the Iowa State Fair in 2019 when asked about this and lying. Shame if this went viral.
Mr. Vice President, how many times have you ever spoken to your son about his overseas business dealings?
I've never spoken to my son about his overseas business dealings.
And so how do you know?
Here's what I know. I know Trump deserves to be investigated. He is violating every basic norm of a president. You should be asking him the question, why is he on the phone with a foreign leader, trying to intimidate a foreign leader, if that's what happened? That appears what happened. You should be looking at Trump. Trump's doing this because he knows I'll beat him like a drum. And he's using the abuse of power and every element of the presidency to try to do something to smear me. Everybody looked at this, and everybody's looked at it and said there's nothing there. Ask the right question.
Mr. Biden, ask the right questions. Oh, do you believe in sweet Old Testament biblical justice? Do you believe that our leaders will be brought down by their own pride and hubris? Do you believe in God? Do you believe in justice? It's happening right now before us, and we should rejoice in that. You should feel light in heart and in step and in mood today, because justice for these people is being exposed. Being exposed as the fraudulent, evil, decrepit liars they are. Not being able to carry on the charade. The greatest charade ever executed on the American people is that Joe Biden is a good and decent man. That is now in tatters. That is in total ashes. Joe Biden has destroyed himself with his own lust for power, his own desire to be powerful. He was the only guy that they could have possibly ratcheted up, cranked up, and amped up enough with whatever they inject into him every morning to try and stand on a stage with Donald Trump in 2020. And through it all, they were able to use Joe Biden, his own hubris, and his own desire for power in order to cravenly grab more of it, and he's going to destroy himself in the process. It's going to be sweet, delicious, Old Testament justice. Watch this from the New York Times. Read this article with me, ladies and gentlemen. Just the first line. Just the first line, shall we? This from the New York Times this morning. Biden spoke with Hunter's business associates repeatedly is the headline. Check this out, the highlighted part. It's long been known that the elder Biden at times interacted with his son's business partners. Joe Biden again and again and again and again and again denied this. They are going to destroy themselves in their own craven lust for power, their own demonic gobbling of power. Demonic gobbling is what we're going to call it on this program, ladies and gentlemen. The New York Times now openly admitting, oh yeah, it's long been known. Well, not what Joe Biden has said. It's certainly not what Joe Biden wants you to believe. And as one lie falls, the rest of them will too. Because what happens when you find a liar? What happens if your wife goes to the grocery, says she's going to go to the grocery store, and you find out she didn't go to the grocery store? She lied to you about that. Well, what happens in the back of your mind, and what's going to happen in the American voters' minds, they're going to be like, wait a second, this guy's a liar. We shouldn't believe him. If you will lie about growing to the grocery store, what else will you lie about? If you'll lie time and time again about your son's business dealings, what else will you lie to us about? And that confidence and that trust will be shattered forever. It's what happens in a relationship. It's what happens with your friend group, and it's what will happen here. Joe Biden will be no different. And you're beginning to see the horrible effects. We'll get into some polling in just a moment. You're beginning to see some horrible effects of what Joe Biden has done to himself. It is the destruction of Joe Biden himself that interests this show. It's a practice in pride and coming before destruction. Joe Biden has only ever been self-interested. Joe Biden stood in front of his child's hospital bed to get sworn in as a senator. Here it is. In case you're wondering the kind of person, ladies and gentlemen, that resides at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue, Joe Biden, using his son's hospital bed as a prop after his kids just lost their mother, who died in a car accident, along with Joe Biden's daughter. I'm not saying that's not tragic, it is, but what kind of a man then uses his children in a hospital bed as a prop? That's Hunter right there, in case you're wondering how screwed up that kid is in the head. That's Hunter laying down on the bed right there, in the hospital bed, while his dad wheels in a pedestal to get sworn in on. Seem like a good guy to you? Seem like a good person? Yeah. This is not a good person. And ladies and gentlemen, we're about to prove it. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we have for you an incredible series of events that happened yesterday. The unraveling of the Biden crime family is apace. They've been caught in one lie, now demonstrably, and the collapse is nigh. Nobody's prepared for it. It's beautiful what happened yesterday. Devon Archer, the man who is the minder for Hunter Biden. Everybody knew Hunter Biden was a sex pest, deviant, cokehead. He needed a minder. He was just being dragged around because of the last name Biden, okay? He opened the keyhole to give access to the Biden family. And by the way, Democrats are out. We're going to knock down every single Democrat argument against this. But Democrats are out saying, this isn't, they're just giving the illusion of access to his father. No! Joe Biden picking up the phone and getting on those calls is the access. It is irrelevant what they talked about, although there are no transcripts. You'll never be able to prove it. It's irrelevant what these individuals talked about because Joe Biden picking up the phone, as we know, speaking with his son's business partners 20 or more times, and then doing 15 in-person meetings, that is the access point. That is the sale. That is the bribe. That's your racketeering charge. And we have some experts that absolutely will make sure that you know that 100%. And hopefully Congress will make sure Joe Biden knows that 100% with an impeachment charge. We'll wait and see. Marjorie Taylor Greene will join the program, and we'll talk about it. But first, here's what happened yesterday.
Devon Archer, the man who Hunter Biden once called a Biden, just flipped on the first family. And it's bad. Archer, who's been in Ukrainian board meetings, Chinese dinners, to the Biden family beach house, is saying that Joe Biden was on the phone with Hunter and his foreign business partners at least 20 times. 20 times. Archer says it was to sell the Biden brand, and Hunter described the Biden brand as gold. Here's how it worked. President Barack Obama would assign Joe Biden a country to handle. And when Biden was assigned to a country, a dirty company with a lot of problems in that country would hire Hunter Biden because they needed something from Joe Biden. Hunter would have dinner with some crooked foreign kleptocrat, and in the middle of dinner, he'd say, hey, let's call my pop. He'd get his dad on the phone, put it on speaker, and Joe Biden would say hello to Hunter's business partners. And that was what the business partners were paying for, that phone call. They were paying Hunter because he could get Joe Biden on the phone like that. And everywhere Joe went, Hunter got paid, and Joe delivered.
Ladies and gentlemen, isn't it interesting that every single time that Hunter Biden got a bag of cash, the person paying that bag of cash got whatever policy that they wanted from the United States of America? I think this is really important. It's so important, in fact, that we've created a little diagram for you to see how this operation actually worked. How this operation worked is that corrupt oligarch, forget the names, Burisma. There's the corrupt oligarch right there. Corrupt oligarch pays the Bidens. The Bidens then put pressure using American tax dollars on Ukraine to get the result that they want. A prosecutor fired. That's what this one was. They try and drown you in the complication of these schemes, and they're somewhat on surface level complicated, but when you diagram them out, it's just pure, straight up criminal corruption. And even the FBI is saying so now. They're not able to hide it. Ladies and gentlemen, it's Burisma that the dogs got a bone now. And that bone, ladies and gentlemen, ain't walking. We got a real problem here for the Biden regime because Devon Archer yesterday turned on the Biden family and said, yeah, dude, this Burisma situation, this is it. He testified that this is exactly what happened. This graph that we've been putting up and showing you, the business partner said, okay, walked into Congress and said, yep, absolutely. Sorry, guys, that's how it's go. That's how it happened. They paid us, got $10 million, got the prosecutor fired, bingo bongo. Replicate that a couple hundred times across the world in developing countries, and you got yourself a fortune. Pretty easy. Watch.
Devon Archer told House investigators today that the corrupt Ukrainian gas company, Burisma, only hired Hunter so his father, Joe, could get the prosecutor investigating them fired. Devon Archer testified Hunter was with the crooked Ukrainian CEO when he called D.C. to demand Joe Biden fire the prosecutor. 3 days later, Joe Biden flew to Ukraine and got the prosecutor fired and then bragged about it. This is what Democrats impeached Trump for probing. Devon Archer also testified that Hunter pulled the same move with other fat cat foreign execs. Archer says Hunter put Joe Biden on the phone with his Chinese partner, Jonathan Lee. And remember, Joe Biden flew Hunter to China on Air Force Two, where Hunter met Jonathan Lee. Hunter introduced Joe and Jonathan Lee in Beijing. They shook hands. It was a $20 million handshake. The Bidens made $20 million from that Chinese deal. After Hunter was given an equity stake in the Chinese investment firm, the Obama-Biden administration greased approvals for Jonathan Lee to take over American car manufacturers. Joe Biden, who claims he didn't talk to his son about his business, even wrote a letter of recommendation to Brown University on behalf of Jonathan Lee's daughter.
It's very important, ladies and gentlemen, for you to understand how our Constitution works. Because what's going to happen right now is there's going to be a massive influence campaign against Republicans who are able to be flipped, turned, or given stock options, right? Given the old trading tips by the CIA as to which stocks to invest in. You always know which ones they are. Okay? You can see it in their actions. You're going to start hearing from these compromised individuals, people who have been bought, sold, and controlled, that maybe we shouldn't do impeachment. Maybe impeachment would hurt us. Ladies and gentlemen, a reminder for you. The impeachment clause. Article 2, Section 4. That's all you have to remember. 2 plus 2 is 4. Article 2, Section 4, the impeachment clause, states the first crime that a president must be impeached for is bribery. So with the testimony yesterday from Devon Archer, you must impeach. That is your constitutional duty now. We have the goods. The gun is smoked. Miranda Devine talking about this Ukrainian prosecutor getting fired, and what a perfect alignment it is with Burisma, who, as a company, testified yesterday saying, through Devon Archer, saying Burisma wouldn't exist without the Bidens. Burisma and Ukraine itself is an entire Biden organ. Does everything start to make sense now? Is it all starting to unravel? Now you're starting to see it all? The Ukrainian flags everywhere? From all these like lobotomized NPCs? You're starting to see it all. Now you see the game. Let the matrix play out before you, the ones and zeros. These people, they are objects, tools, organs of our superstate. And Joe Biden is doing their bidding. Joe Biden protected Ukraine, and he continues to protect Ukraine to his own benefit. Watch Miranda.
Victor Shokin, at the very time that he was removed on the orders of Joe Biden, the prosecutor there, he was investigating Burisma, the company that was paying Hunter Biden $83,000 a month. So he, within a few months of Hunter Biden and Devon Archer getting Joe Biden on the phone to talk to their Burisma paymasters in Dubai, we had Victor Shokin seizing all property belonging to the owner of Burisma in Kiev. And so he was operating as a thorn in the side of Burisma. And we know that because the Burisma executives were extorting and trying to get Devon Archer and Hunter Biden to do something about Shokin because it was causing them problems.
It's as simple as this diagram. We put it up every single show. Important for you to remember. We have takeaway homework at this program. The homework today. Remember, Article 2, Section 4. We're going to get into the Democrat response here in just a second because it's hysterical. Article 2, Section 4. Bribery is the number one reason to impeach a president. That's what our founders said. Those are the rules of the land. That's your constitutional obligation. It is our constitutional obligation now to impeach Joe Biden. The rules of the land. Because of this. Bribery. Pretty simple. There it is. You can have very few words, maybe like 10 words on this entire thing. You don't even need them. This is all you need. Screenshot the screen. We'll tweet it out. There's your bribery scandal. There's no evidence. Shut up. Shut up. Shut up. Shove your head in a microwave and click defrost, ladies and gentlemen. There is some breaking news that you are going to love. FBI agents and liberal professors turning on Joe Biden and saying, this is the end of the regime. Oh, man. Stay tuned for that news, ladies and gentlemen. You want to stay tuned to our program for the news. I encourage you to use a cell phone company that isn't woke and that doesn't hate you in order to do it. Use a cell phone company that is the most reliable in the country. Patriot Mobile. My friends at Patriot Mobile are working with us to actually create an open line so that we can do calls from you live during the show. We are working on so many awesome things in this program. Praise God. Ladies and gentlemen, Patriot Mobile is a free speech company. And that's really important when you're in the communication business. When you're a free speech company, you can also support sanctity of life, Second Amendment, military veterans, responders, and heroes. Patriot Mobile is the right cell phone company for patriots. PatriotMobile.com/Benny. You can get free activation today with the offer code Benny. Ask about their coverage guarantee while you're there. The switching is easy. PatriotMobile.com/Benny or click the link in the description. So what about former prosecutors for the FBI? What about the FBI assistant director? What does he have to say about this Biden crime scheme? This guy's probably not a right-winger, right? He was the assistant director of the FBI. This guy's he's not wearing a MAGA hat to work every morning. This guy was the assistant director of the FBI. What does he have to say about Joe Biden and his obvious influence peddling scheme, now with witnesses turning on him? Let's have a listen.
I mean, this is what we call, as head of the criminal division, we saw this quite a bit in the bribery cases. It's called stream of services. You sell access or something of value, and you get something back in return, but it's not an express quid pro quo. It's just an understanding. But if you can match up the services within a reasonable period of time with the thing of benefit, in this case $10 million or whatever it is, then you have bribery. You don't have to have that express quid pro quo. And they were selling access. All you had to do, they do the big setup, and then they put Joe Biden on the phone and just shows that they have access. Here he is. He's on the phone. I just told you, we can do things for you. And there he is. So, I mean, that matches up perfectly. Then you match it up with the prosecutor gets fired. The prosecutor is going after Burisma right within that same time frame. Boy, you're really close to a slam dunk, in my opinion.
Yeah. You're close to a slam dunk, says the FBI former assistant director, saying that bribery you don't need to have an exchange of services. You simply need to have the results achieved. Well, the results were achieved. The prosecutor got fired. The exchange of services were simple. Joe Biden got on the phone. And I think this is such an important thing. And we're going to go through the left's like absolutely paranoid, frantic, sweaty, egregious, screaming at the rooftops, howling at the moon response to this. You're going to love it. Oh, it is delicious. I hope you have your salt shakers ready. It is going to be a salty, salty morning. Oh, and Marjorie Taylor Greene isn't even on the show yet. Get ready for that, too, in a few moments. But ladies and gentlemen, you got to understand, bribery, to prove bribery, you don't need to prove what Joe Biden was talking about with his son. Just the fact that he answered the phone and had the conversations is the access, is the bribery. It's what they were paying for. Do you have a mom? Do you have a dad? Have you ever done business with someone? I do business all day. I'm a small business owner. We got employees here. We got a lot of business. We're hustling. We're going. We're ready to go. I get on the phone call all day. I got a big meeting right after the show today. Big meeting. Really excited about it. We're going to talk a lot of details. We're going to hash it out. I'm going to bring my hammer, my chisel. I'm going to bring everything. We're going to go to war. I got my lawyers. We're going to go. It's going to be a big, fun, exciting business meeting. Let me tell you what I'm not going to do during that meeting. I'm not going to take my phone and dial my dad, who's retired, and he lives in Florida, and be like, hey, yo, Dad, why don't you talk to everyone? Huh? What? Is wrestling on? What's going on? What, is it happy hour? That's not what I'm going to do. I think the opposite of what I would do. That's the opposite of what you would do. I'm sure that you have a successful business. Or you have been on business calls. Do you dial your mom and dad during those calls? Do you dial in your parents during those calls? It's influence peddling. This is the proof. Jonathan Turley, one of our favorite legal scholars, a Democrat, a guy who may have voted for Joe Biden, a professor at Georgetown University, where Hunter Biden attended and smoked a ton of crack there, had this to say on Fox News, just absolutely eviscerating the Biden crime family, saying it's the biggest scandal he's ever seen in 50 years in Washington.
We have other evidence that they shared accounts. There are some emails referring to a 10% cut going to the president, who was called the big guy. There were accounts of offices that would be paid for the president and the first lady. Hunter Biden himself complains about taking money to pay his father's bills. You know, there was an exchange where Hunter Biden said, we're the best at this effectively. And they are. And you can see that in how this influence peddling scheme was developed. No money has to go directly to the president. There's lots of ways to benefit the Biden family. But the one thing that we can't do is just walk away. We have to find out the full story here. I think this is shaping up to be one of the greatest corruption scandals in the history of Washington, and that is saying a lot.
So it's shaping up to be one of the greatest corruption scandals in the history of Washington, D.C. What are they going to do to try and silence this bombshell testimony? Oh, you're going to love it. Oh, you're going to love it. We have a supercut right now that is amazing. A supercut of how the media is going to fuse with the Democrat Party as they are an organ of the Democrat Party, and they are going to block out for 50% of America this scandal. That's what they're going to do. They know that they control about 50% of the eyeballs in America, and that is why the work that we do here on this program is so important. That is why we are attempting to break the matrix on this program. That is why the value of your subscription, the value of you just sharing this or commenting or jumping into the comment section or dropping salt shakers is so important. It helps us break down the walls that have been erected by a failing, losing all viability, losing all capacity to prop up like a business. They're all going out of business. They're all getting fired because they don't have a real business model. We have a real business model. And we are ascendant while they are going out of business. And it's a beautiful thing to see. But they are going to scream while that plane is going down in flames. Listen to the screaming.
So far, they have been not able to prove any evidence here of wrongdoing.
House GOP members continue to try and link Hunter's business dealings to the president, though they have yet to produce any concrete evidence.
Now, it is important to keep in mind, while Republicans believe that there is a tie between Hunter Biden's business dealings and the president himself, they have yet to provide any hard evidence that the president himself has done anything wrong.
House Republicans are going to accuse him.
They are.
They're going to make the accusation.
They're going to accuse him of all sorts of
whether
stuff.
they have the evidence or not.
Correct.
And Republicans have not tied the president, Joe Biden, to profiteering from them.
They didn't have the evidence yet.
Where's the evidence? There is no evidence of any wrongdoing by the president.
There is today zero evidence that Joe Biden, the president of the United States, knew about what his son was doing. And if the president of the United States committed the kind of offenses that in the Republican fever dreams they're saying he committed without any evidence, there is at this point zero evidence that Joe Biden is guilty of anything. What the Republicans are doing, of course, is they're just very, very angry that their guy got impeached twice. And so they're just casting about for a way of visiting retribution on the Democrats, and this is their latest fever dream.
Remember, ladies and gentlemen, when we say, there's no evidence, this is what the person looks like. There's no evidence. There's no evidence. The ogre with the pronouns in bio. There's no evidence of Joe Biden wrongdoing. These are the trolls. These are what the people look like, all right? We want that salt. Give me that salt. I want salt flowing through the comment section. I want these individuals to be like like finding the dead, like floating in the Dead Sea. Okay, I want that level of sodium in our comment section right now. I need those salt shakers to fall from the sky. And ladies and gentlemen, in less than 5 minutes, Marjorie Taylor Greene joins our program. Marjorie Taylor Greene was in the room for the deposition. In the room for the deposition with Devon Archer. So you are not going to want to miss this. Buckle up. Now, there was one other person that was in the room with Devon Archer. A very sweaty, very Cretan-like, very slimy Dan Goldman. And Dan Goldman's the person who you may recall brought the impeachment charges against Donald Trump for asking about Joe Biden and Ukraine and the bribery. Donald Trump got impeached for asking about it. Just a reminder of that. Dan Goldman is somebody who was trotted out yesterday, who was in sheer panic, who was visibly shook. And when asked what the Bidens were talking about on the phone calls that Hunter Biden was doing with his business partners in order to curry favor and in order to get the American government to deliver on promises using your tax dollars, here's what Dan Goldman, the de facto lawyer for Joe Biden here, said that the Bidens were discussing.
And sounds like most of the time, now President Biden didn't even know who the people he was at dinner. He was just asked to say hello. And he would, talk about the way he described it several times. They asked over and over and over. He described what the weather was, what's going on your end. The witness was very, very consistent that none of those conversations ever had to do with any business dealings or transactions. They were purely what he called casual conversations.
Talking about the weather. I'm about to go do a big business meeting. After this program, we have a series of meetings scheduled. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to dial in my dad, and then I'm going to ask my dad while I'm on these calls, these important business meetings after the show. We're expanding and growing this show. Praise God. God, thank you. We love this audience. We are making all these avenues for this audience to be part of the show. Get ready. It is going to be a wild and incredible ride. But here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to call in my dad, and I'm going to go, hey, Dad, how's the weather? That makes sense to you? Well, nobody believed that. So the Democrats came out with a new lie this morning. They got on message. I want to be in one of those meetings someday where they all sit inside the same room and they get delivered like inside of this little folder, the talking points for the day, because the talking points now have changed, and it's delicious. The talking points have now gone from, they were just talking about the weather, well, it went from Joe Biden never spoke with his son about business meetings. Okay, Joe Biden did speak with his son about business meetings. Okay, all right, Joe Biden was present at all of these business meetings. Yes, the Bidens took money from the Russians. Yes, the Bidens took money from the Ukrainians. Yes, the Bidens took money from the communist Chinese. But it was all legal! It wasn't. And now we've reached the final state. The final stage of all of this is Joe Biden's son died. Yep, that's going to be the final state. The final state is Joe Biden had a personal tragedy one time, and so you should forgive him of breaking 461 different statutes in our federal legal code. Because Joe Biden's son, Beau, is dead. Listen.
What were they about? What would then Vice President Biden say in these conversations? Walk us through what happened.
Right. So let's put this in context. Beau Biden got very sick in early 2015. He died in the spring of 2015, which was right in the middle when Devon Archer had his business dealings with Hunter Biden. At that point, Joe Biden and Hunter Biden began to speak every day because they were both devastated by Beau's death. They spoke every day. The witness testified that over his 10-year relationship with Hunter Biden, there may be approximately 20 times when in one of those conversations, Hunter Biden would put his father at a dinner, not at a business meeting, at a dinner that he was having if he happened to get a hold of his father, and would ask his father to say hello to whoever was at the table. And that was essentially the extent of it.
Ooh, I love that. Thanks, Mark. Thanks, Mark, for the salt. Thank you, Criminal Failures, for the salt and the American flags, and thank you, Jennifer, for the salt. We're gonna start we're working on it. When we play lib clips of sweaty greaseball Dan Goldman lying for the Bidens professionally, saying that Joe Biden's son died, so Joe Biden's allowed to be a criminal because his son died once. We're gonna start putting the salt up on screen. Okay, we're gonna work on it. When you give us salt, when you deliver salt to the comment section. When you deliver salt to the comment section, we are going to take that salt and we're going to shove it on the screen when the libs are crying. Now, what kind of a deranged, truly sick, depraved individual would use their son's death as a mask, as an excuse for committing massive international bribery schemes? What kind of a... It's clearly Dan Goldman. It's clearly Dan Goldman isn't doing this with Joe Biden's blessing. What a horrible thing to say. Dan Goldman just concocted this, right, out of thin air. He just came up with it. He's a scumbag, and he just decided to do this, right? Joe Biden would never use the death of his favored son, right? Hunter was always the screw up. Beau was the favored son. Joe Biden would never trot out the coffin of his son and then use it as a shield against questionings from his own crimes, right? We don't have the tape of Joe Biden doing that, right?
Former White House aides of yours who tried to warn you about the potential conflicts of interest.
Nobody warned me about a potential conflict of interest. Nobody warned me about that. And at the same time...
George Kent, the State Department official, testified that he raised it to you.
No, he
and your
didn't
staff,
say
to your
me.
staff.
He did not
to your
say
staff. I stand corrected.
Never heard that once.
To your staff, and your staff told him he has no bandwidth.
Well, my son was dying. I guess that's why he said it, because my son was on his deathbed.
You know, we have the clip of Joe Biden getting sworn into Senate with his kids in hospital beds behind him. Joe Biden had a podium wheeled into the hospital. So I guess this is in Joe Biden's character, the greatest lie and psyop ever committed and executed on the American public is that Joe Biden is a good man and a decent man. Joe Biden has used his family's pain, his family's suffering, his children's death as a proxy for his own power, as an opportunity to gain influence or to get and deliver a photo op. There it is. You are looking at it on your screen right now. It sounds so ghoulish. What a goblin. What a lizard person to do this. You must have cold blood, black cold blood in your veins. But here it is on camera. And this photo, by the way, was used in every Joe Biden political advertisement for the next 40 years. Joe Biden with his kids in hospital beds getting sworn in. What a sick, evil goblin. Ladies and gentlemen, you might say it's time for Joe Biden to be impeached. Well, it turns out that Jamie Comer had a phone call about exactly that with Kevin McCarthy after this hearing. And I'm just getting word that Marjorie Taylor Greene is getting set. Marjorie Taylor Greene was in the room when Devon Archer testified, and James Comer, of course, was also in the room. James Comer saying he called McCarthy, and this impeachment baby is back on the menu, boys.
I mean, how can a guy like this stay in office? You heard Speaker McCarthy. He's talking about impeachment, possibly bribery. If this is bribery, that's in the Constitution. I mean, do you think he's going to get impeached? Should he be impeached?
Well, I know how I would vote. But again, that's a decision for Speaker McCarthy. But I'll tell you this, right before I came on the show, Speaker McCarthy called me and I gave him a rundown of what was said today. And we talked about steps moving forward. So, stay tuned.
All right, Chairman Comer, we appreciate it so much. Fascinating stuff.
Ladies and gentlemen, you heard it. Stay tuned. Remember, I have said many times and always will when I'm wrong on this program, I will come out and say, yo, I was wrong. Kevin McCarthy has been pushing for the impeachment 3 times last week. Kevin McCarthy said on camera, on television, and to the press corps that there needs to be an impeachment inquiry. This is good moves. These are good moves. Jamie Comer there on Newsmax last night saying, stay tuned. The person who you should listen to in all of this, and the person who was in the room for the bribery bombshell hearing yesterday, the great Marjorie Taylor Greene, joins us now. Congresswoman, thank you so much for being on the program. It's an honor. We know that you are very, very busy right now. I just want to straight off the top, just because of that clip of the chairman, Jamie Comer, where are we standing on impeachment? And then let's jump into sort of what you heard yesterday.
Well, yesterday was explosive. What we found out for certain is that there's proof now that Joe Biden lied. And the reason why that's important, Benny, is because when they moved towards impeachment with Richard Nixon, it was because they had proof that he lied. That was before he resigned. When Bill Clinton was impeached, the Congress moved towards impeachment because they had proof that Bill Clinton had lied. Now, with Devon Archer's testimony yesterday saying that Hunter Biden got his father on the phone over 20 times with his business partners about business deals, not what Dan Goldman said, that is proof that Joe Biden has lied, because he's told the public, he's told the press, he's told many people in interviews over and over that he never spoke with his son Hunter about his business dealings, that he knew nothing about his son's business. And now we have proof that he lied. I also spoke with Speaker Kevin McCarthy yesterday afternoon, and I am totally in line with Chairman Jamie Comer of the Oversight Committee. We are very excited. We think this is going to move the needle for many members that maybe weren't sure about impeachment or just were sitting on the sidelines saying there was not enough evidence. I think this is definitely going to push our conference toward an impeachment inquiry, but we'll wait and see how that goes. But I think it looks very good now.
Good. So you were in the room. How was Devon Archer behaving? Do you trust him?
Let me make that correction. Actually, the most members on the Oversight Committee were not there yesterday. We are out of session, and Devon Archer and his attorneys had canceled on us 3 times. In the past few months. They were trying to basically stop this from happening. His attorneys did not want him to come in. And as as we saw last weekend, the Department of Justice worked overtime on Saturday and Sunday, firing off letters, trying to basically send Devon Archer to jail before he came in and testified on Monday. They wanted this to be low profile, low pressure, because everyone needs to understand, for the listeners, Devon Archer was coming in to give his testimony to us without immunity, without any protection from the Department of Justice. And that's because the Department of Justice works directly for Joe Biden. And the Department of Justice is in full spin mode and full cover-up mode for the Biden family crimes. So they did not want a big committee hearing. They did not want to come before the Oversight Committee and all the members. So this was done in a very small setting with the Oversight Committee attorneys and Devon Archer and his attorneys. It was many hours of questioning, but I was completely connected with the people in the room the entire time.
So this is something that I don't think is connected to reality, which is the new talking point that they were simply discussing the weather. Do you believe that?
Well, Benny, I've been in business for over 25 years. Every business meeting I've ever had always starts out with the niceties. Hey, how you doing? How's the weather where you are? And then you get into
call your
business.
Parents? You call your,
Of course.
so you have a successful business. You call your mom and dad during every business meeting?
Well, I do. I talk with my employees. No, I don't talk to my parents anymore. But, so that's not something that is typical. But I do talk to people I'm in business with. So yeah, I do. I call them up, just like Hunter called his dad, because what Devon Archer told us is Devon Archer called Joe Biden the brand. Joe Biden and his vice presidency was the brand that Hunter and Devon Archer were selling to their business partners. He was the brand that was being promoted because the brand was Joe Biden while he was vice president, and the power that he held and the ability to put pressure, the ability to make foreign policy decisions, the ability to make problems go away like he did for the oligarch that owns Burisma. And that's why he got paid a $5 million bribe. And we have proof of that on the FBI 1023 form. So you see, Devon Archer's testimony yesterday was explosive, Benny. While he said more times than I like, his answer to many of the questions was, I do not recall. Because again, remember, if you're coming in and you're talking about the type of business deals you were involved in as Hunter Biden's business partner, while you were promoting the brand, selling the vice presidency of the United States to foreign nationals, to foreign governments, to foreign countries' businesses and interests, then you were involved in crimes. So without immunity, I think everyone can understand how that was a very difficult testimony yesterday. But what he did provide to us is everything we need to move forward with an impeachment inquiry. Number one, Joe Biden was on the phone over 20 times talking about Hunter Biden's business deals, talking to his business partners. Another comment that Devon Archer made is that the Bidens are in the family of peddling influence. That is a very big deal. And while peddling influence is not necessarily a crime per se, say if you're talking about with celebrities or sports figures or people like that, but it is a crime when you're peddling influence of elected officials like the vice president or members of Congress. It is a crime when it affects the national security of the United States of America. It is a crime when we're looking at abuse of power and we're looking at how the American people's hard-earned tax dollars are handled. So these are very serious allegations. And this is why I will argue this yesterday's testimony was the greatest argument for Congress to move forward on an impeachment inquiry.
The impeachment clause inside of Article 2, Section 4 of the Constitution lists bribery as the first reason to impeach a president. It seems to be that if the GOP doesn't impeach Joe Biden, they are standing athwart the Constitution, our founders, their own duty and fealty to the document. Would you agree?
I completely agree with you. And that's 100% correct. It is our responsibility. It is our duty. We swear an oath to do this job. And it's been so important to me. I take this responsibility, the utmost importance in any job I've ever done in my life. And that's why I introduced articles of impeachment on Joe Biden's first day in office, because we knew that he had abused power. We knew he had engaged in all these crimes. But let's point something out very important. Bill Barr under President Trump, who was the Attorney General for the United States of America at the Department of Justice, had in his possession in June of 2020, before the general election, the 1023 form that outlined clearly from the FBI's top informant that Joe Biden had taken a $5 million bribe and Hunter Biden had taken a $5 million bribe. Bill Barr did nothing with that form. He did nothing with it. He handed it off to another U.S. attorney and nothing was done. Now, I want you to imagine if Bill Barr had taken his job seriously, if the Department of Justice had investigated this, if the FBI had raided Joe Biden's Delaware home and raided all these places where he stores his classified documents, and they had done their job and their duty that they should have been doing, then I will argue Joe Biden would not be president of the United States today, because America would have already known what a criminal he is and what a criminal his son is as well.
Congresswoman, final question for you, because it's something that is a black pill for many people. There are many people who are doomers, who say that the media is against us and the deep state is against us, and they have consumed so much power with their cultural Marxism that we'll never get a fair shake again. There's a two-tier system of justice, and no one can effectuate any change. You are in charge of one of the few organs of government that Republicans have right now, and the capacity, obviously, for oversight, subpoenas, and so forth. How do you go about, if there is a Republican that is sworn in 2024, how do you go about 2025, I guess, technically, January 2025, how do you go about advising that Republican to destroy this system? Because we cannot continue on as a country like this.
I say it's very simple. If you're a parent or blessed to be a grandparent, you look at your children and you look at them and you look at their life ahead. If we do not just rip the corruption out of our federal government, and this is not an easy job. It will not be done in a year or 2 years or even 3 years. This is a very long and tedious job, and there will be many people that will fight like hell to stop it from happening. And that'll come from both sides. We already hear it right now from even Republicans on our side saying, you know, let's just let this go by. We should just be focusing on appropriations. We should just be focusing on, passing our bills. Let me tell you something. We will never, ever have a fair justice system in America if we do not tackle this problem and just totally rip it from its roots out of our government. And going forward, I think it is the most important duty we have. And I'll go back to our children, Benny. How are our children ever going to have any type of future in a communist country? Because we are living under a communist regime right now, and it's only getting started. And imagine how much worse it can get. If in America today they use abortion as birth control, they tell children they can change their gender as early as they're telling them these lies at 3 years old and 4 years old, and encouraging them to take puberty blockers and have these surgeries done. They're telling women that even though you have women's rights, you're supposed to allow men in your bathrooms and men in your sports. They're telling our young people to bury themselves in college debt when they could easily learn a trade and get a wonderful job and pursue a wonderful career. They're telling us that marriage is optional. I mean, look at all the lies that these Marxist communists spread across the minds of Americans. And I ask, what kind of future will we have when we have a Department of Justice that won't prosecute criminals, but abuse their power and go after their political enemies instead? That's what I'll be urging President Trump when he's back in the White House. That's what I'll be urging my colleagues. That's what I'll be urging everyone for as long as I can and as long as I'm involved, because it's about our kids, Benny. And that's the only thing that should matter. Every bill we write, every vote we take, every decision we make, we should always think of our children. And that's the best way we can go moving forward.
Yeah, nothing will make you more based and more desirous to save this country than having kids or grandkids. That is what I advise every time I speak to young people. Marjorie Taylor Greene, you are clearly doing your part. We thank you so very much for it. Where can people find your work?
Oh, you can find me on basically all social media except Threads. I'm not on there. Twitter. You can find me on Twitter. There it is, Rep MTG, and my personal account is at MT Greene, 2 E's on the end. Thanks so much, Benny.
And you've just been brought back, and you were brought back to Twitter.
That's right. I'm
wrongfully banned. Yes,
yeah,
that's right.
That's right.
That's
yeah.
right.
Thanks
Ladies
a lot,
and gentlemen,
Benny.
Godspeed. Thank you, Congresswoman. I just love having a program where some of the most powerful and some of the most followed and some of the most respected members of our government and our chattering class and our politics and our zeitgeist can come on and speak directly with you, directly with the individuals who are working to create a alternative media, who are working to create the real media, right? This is what we are. We are creating the real media. These people they're fake. These MSNBC, all of it's fake. Fugazi, this is not real. They don't have real audiences. We're actually building from the ground up a real audience. And it's such an honor. It's such a privilege to be able to do the show every single day and to be able to book just incredible guests who are, again, working overtime to save this country. Ladies and gentlemen, why would you want to save the country? Well, one, it's where we live. It's where our children live. Two, it's where presumably you have land, a home. It's where you're raising your kids. And how exactly are you going to provide for them if your currency is worth nothing? That is why I encourage you to consider diversifying today with my friends at Allegiance Gold. Allegiance Gold can protect your hard-earned cash, your savings, your paycheck, and back it with physical gold and silver. And it's a very smart time to do that. Banks failing, the stock market crashing. You got to consider some diversification today. Get up to $5,000 of free silver on a qualifying purchase when you visit protectwithbenny.com today. Protectwithbenny.com today. Allegiance Gold has the best ratings in the business. I trust them personally. Go there today. Visit protectwithbenny.com today. All right, ladies and gentlemen, my boy Byron Donalds coming through with an absolute haymaker yesterday. A clip that we couldn't get to before the Congresswoman joined the program, but we got to play it. Byron Donalds straight up being like, hold up, how did Joe Biden afford all these beach houses? If he's not corrupt, if he's getting the same salary I'm getting, then how does Joe Biden, $170,000 a year, which is what you get if you're like a member of Congress, how's Joe Biden affording all these mansions on the beach? That don't make no sense, Byron Donalds from the great state of Florida. Go.
I worked in government. I mean, I've done it twice, 3 years for Reagan and 3 years for Trump. Byron, I lost money. I had to dip into my savings. I didn't come out buying any damn mansions. How does this guy do this? Where'd that money come from?
You do it. Listen, you do it. It's real simple, Larry. The reason why he was able to buy these beach houses, millions and millions of dollars, is because his son was out there getting a bag for selling the family's name, basically Joe Biden's name, across the globe. There's no other way to do this. Look, I'm going to go back to my banking days on this one, Larry. Yeah. There is no way somebody's qualifying for a $5 million beach house when you're making $174,000 a year. It just ain't happening. You don't qualify for that loan, and you definitely didn't save up enough in a deposit in order to put down that much. You just didn't do it. I'm sorry. Those are the facts, America. Joe Biden was on the take, and now he's luxuriating in the fact that he was on the take.
Boom. Man, dude, Byron Donalds, friends of the show. Love it when he can come on and chat with us. He's got a rocking career ahead of him, man, and he should stay on this investigation. And it looks like they're going to. More Hunter Biden business partners to testify in Congress following Devon Archer hearing. Uh-oh. Spaghetti-o. Hunter Biden's former business partners and close friend Devon Archer will not be the last associate of Hunter Biden to be deposed before the House Oversight Committee. Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene revealed to the Post-Millennial that we have more business partners coming in, so get ready, more to come, and House Republicans. Dude, there was a lot of news yesterday. We were talking about this. There was a lot of news yesterday. We were in the studio till late in the evening. A lot of news dropping yesterday. The House Republicans are launching another investigation into the botched plea deal of Hunter Biden. That was, of course, all the rave last week when the plea deal fell to pieces, when the judge started asking questions about this incredible get-out-of-jail-free card that Hunter Biden gets, absolving him of all these crimes forever. And nobody could explain it. Nobody could defend it. So now there is an investigation into that. Ha! Watch.
Months ago, Republicans are saying, why is DOJ asking for this prison date to be set now, just before he does this transcribed interview? House Judiciary Chairman Jim Jordan and Ways and Means Chairman Jason Smith just sent in a letter to Attorney General Merrick Garland regarding the Hunter Biden plea deal, that deal from last week that Judge Mary Ellen Norica denied. She's giving them 30 days to kind of go back to the drawing board there. They sent a letter to Attorney General Garland asking him detailed questions about what they call this sweetheart plea deal. They're giving him 2 weeks to answer these questions.
So good. Way to go. This is power. This is what wielding power looks like. Republicans are very bad at it, very limp-wristed at it in the past, and this is what the slow correction looks like. You must have power under control to be a scary man, to be somebody that someone respects, the stoic man. You must be powerful and capable of violence, and you must be under control. Ladies and gentlemen, that's what this party is becoming. And it's becoming that because of you, and because of our show, and because of what we do every single day to stay informed and to make sure that we are activated together. The Benny Brigade marches on, and even if there's no good news to report, we always end with good news, the good news. The verse of the day from Hebrews chapter 4, verse 16. Let us then with confidence draw near to the throne of grace, that we may receive mercy and find grace and help in time of need. Not all is lost. Do not get blackpilled. Do not become a doomer. It is time for us to draw near to our God, who holds the whole earth in his hand. He's got the whole world in his hand. And I'm teaching my kids that song right now, actually. And to understand that there are ebbs and flows to these things. The pendulum swings back and forth, and God asks for us to be faithful in good times and in bad. The sun shines, and the rain falls on both the wicked and the evil, and so it is up to us to be faithful. And that is why we march on, Christian soldier, and we organize our lives correctly. God, family, country. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm your boy Benny, and this is The Benny Show. See ya.